Hey everybody, we are officially live. So excited for our second mentor workshop of the fall semester. And by the way, when I say second mentor workshop, that I'm not including the orientation. Thank you all for being here. Super excited to get started. If you are watching the recording of this, please feel free to fast forward by about 5 minutes. We're going to get started at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. on Mountain Time, and 4 p.m. on the West Coast. But thank you all for being here. So excited to get started for our second mentor workshop. For those of you who are attending live, I'm going to post a link onto our website so you can see and attend and click the link and participate and engage. That's the funnest part of these workshops, is when we can engage with the live streams and engage with the mentor workshops, is when we can build that community. So I'm creating it now. We are officially live on our website. But thank you all for being here. We're going to cover some really good topics, some really good points as it pertains to mentor relationships. And I'm excited to get an update from you all on how your mentor relationships are going so far. And I'm excited to get updates and to see what we can do to connect and grow. Hey, Kazima. Hey, Jennifer. Yeah, you made it. Yeah, you did. Thanks for being here. So glad, so grateful to have you both here. We're going to have more people jump in. Introduce yourself in the comment section. That's always great. Hey, William. Thanks for being here. Yeah, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the comment section. If you got any questions, I'll be sure to get to them during this live stream. I'm gonna try to angle my video so then the top of my head isn't cut off. But happy Thursday, everybody. I hope everybody is enjoying the weather wherever they're located. I'm currently in Austin, Texas. It's been a little bit cold here lately. It's it's been like in the 40s, which I know seems warm because I came from Indiana, and in Indiana it's pretty cold. Hey, Mark, thanks for being here. Welcome everybody. So I guess perhaps I'm spoiled, but yeah, the weather has been slightly chilly here, in the 40s in the mornings when I'm walking my dog. Hey, Brian, thanks for being here. But yeah, we're going to get started in a couple minutes. We're going to get an update on your mentor relationship. We're going to provide some guidance, some insight into how to, we're going to focus on accountability in this conversation, because I know that's something that's probably on your mind when it comes to your mentor relationship, and when your interactions with your mentee, you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, so we've set some initial goals. That's awesome. But are they actually hitting those goals? And what are some effective ways we can go about holding somebody accountable without being overbearing? I think that's finding that fine balance. We're going to help with that today. Hey, Tanyetta. Hey, Dr. Tanyetta. Thanks for being here. Jennifer, thanks for sharing. That's great. I love to hear that your first couple conversations with your mentees have been great. The what ifs. I think it's fascinating. I think that's definitely a very reasonable and real thing to go through. Of the everybody's got the what ifs. It's easy to get negative or think about the things that might not work. But building up that confidence and seeing something in your mentee is just part of the mentor relationship. And that really helps boost them up for what they can achieve, what they can do. We're going to get started in about 1 minute. Thanks for your patience, by the way. We're going to get started, like I said, in 1 minute. Oh, you know what? I talked about this last time and I forgot to do it. I was going to play some music, but it's a little too late now. I don't know any songs that are 30 seconds long. We'll wait like 20 more seconds. For any late joiners. But thank you all for being here. It is officially 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock on the West Coast, and 5 o'clock in Colorado, Mountain Standard Time. I'm so excited to get started. We are here to talk about what is our second workshop. So we're here to chat about 15 to 20 minutes of content, maybe a little bit longer, and then about 5 to 10 minutes of Q&A if you have any Qs or As for our respective mentors. During this workshop, we're going to cover suggested questions you can ask your mentee to build a deeper relationship, essentially how you can get your mentee to open up more to you. That's something that might be on your mind. We're going to talk a little bit about that, some suggestions, some things that we found to be pretty effective for helping a mentee open up and be vulnerable. By the way, it is always encouraging and always helpful to do that by reciprocating yourself and opening up yourself. We're going to talk about how to help your mentee with accountability and then suggested questions to get them thinking about accountability. And then we're going to talk about how to help your mentee broaden their perspective. Jennifer, I know you brought up the idea of your mentee kept bringing up the what ifs. I'm going to provide some suggested questions that are really effective for helping somebody broaden their perspective of what they can achieve and really overcome a lot of those fears and a lot of those hurdles that they might be self-imposing on themselves because it's not serving them and it's not helping them get to where they want to be. But before we jump into any of that, I'm going to go into the 3 keys to success in a mentor relationship. I've covered it the last couple of times. I cover them every single time because they are that important. That is your strategy, your story, and your state. Where are you at? Where are you at physically? Where are you at mentally? Where are you at with the strategies you are leveraging with your mentee? We're going to cover that right now. So those are the 3 keys to your success in a mentor relationship because they are the key components to what outcomes you derive in your mentor relationship. And so we'll start with your state. That is the most important one. Physically, where are you? I pound my chest like I'm King Kong because I really want to stress the importance of coming and intentionally focus on your physical state for your mentor meetings. I don't care if you've had a stressful day. I don't care if you've got other crazy things going on in your world. I don't care what's going on with your family. When it comes to your mentor relationship, show up present, so show up intentionally, show up ready to give energy. Because if you're there taking energy, if you're an energy suck, you are not going to be getting the most out of your mentor relationship. If you're coming into your mentor meetings hoping that your mentee is going to be the person that builds you up for the day, that's not necessarily a great situation you're putting your mentee in. So we want to really focus on, are you delivering energy to the relationship? Are you coming in a peak state? And there's a variety of things you can do to do that. My favorite thing to do is to get up, dance, and scream it out. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to stand up, and for the next 30 seconds, I want you to shake it out. I want you to shake it loose. I want you to shimmy around. I want you to dance it out. I want you to scream at the top of your lungs. On the count of 3, scream at the top of your lungs. 1, 2, 3. Yeah! Just let it out. Let it loose. Let it go. Scream, shake it, shimmy, go. I don't care if you're on other people. I don't care if you're embarrassing yourself. It gets yourself into a physical state conducive for being successful because your motions drive your emotions. When you are moving, when you are going, when you are getting it all right and going, you are getting yourself physically and emotionally into a state conducive for being just happier. So take a moment to pause as you wind down from that crazy energizing exercise. It is the funnest part of these workshops, in my opinion. I like doing it. It gets me all jazzed up and crazy. But yeah, hey DeAndre, hey Dr. Agard, thanks for being here. But yeah, getting yourself into a state physically conducive for being successful is so key to success in your mentor relationships, or just retaining or receiving any information for that matter, or teaching any information for that matter. So get yourself into a state physically conducive for being successful. You can also do power poses, stretching it out, whatever gets you going. That's what you should be doing before your mentor conversations, because that will help you get into that state conducive for being successful. This next key is your story. What is the story you tell yourself for why you will or will not be successful as a mentor? That is something that I really want to stress home to you, because if you're telling yourself these things like, oh, well, I don't have the experiences or I don't have all the answers, well, that's what you're going to manifest, plain and simple. And what I found and what we found in facilitating thousands of mentoring relationships is that it's not about the answers you provide your mentee, but it's the questions you ask them. That's the biggest thing. If you tell yourself a story for why you can be successful as a mentor because of your willingness to ask great, intentional, vulnerable questions, that is huge. That's really all you need. It's just the mentality that you can be successful will help you be successful. But if you tell yourself you're going to be a failure, you're going to be a failure. You're going to manifest whatever outcome you tell yourself and no higher. There's no such thing as achieving a stretch goal that you didn't actually set. If you set yourself a goal of getting to here, you're not going to accidentally fall and get to here. It doesn't work like that. Your mentality is massive in terms of what kind of successful outcomes you will achieve or won't achieve. So your story is so critical to that. And the final part is your strategy. What are the things that you can do to really help your mentee work and achieve the goals that he or she has set for him or herself? This is so critical. What are you doing to help them think differently about their roles? And we're going to help with some strategies by providing suggested questions, providing some tactics, providing some tricks and tips. but recognize it's not a one size fits all mentality, and it's not a one size fits all solution. Whatever may have worked for you because of the mentors you've had in your life, that's awesome, may not necessarily work for your mentee, and that's okay. But your willingness to try multiple strategies will help you ensure that you are a successful mentor. So before we dive into the next part of building a deeper relationship with your mentee, I'm going to see if you all have any questions or comments. Hey, Dr. John, thanks for saying hey. Hey, Laura. Hey, Laura, thanks for being here. I'm so excited and glad that you're here for the live session. Hey, Annie, thanks for being here as well. Dr. Annie Thompson is in the house. Fantastic. Thanks for announcing yourself. So let's dive deeper into our keys here in terms of building a deeper relationship with your mentee. One of the big things that I really love to suggest is really getting to know your mentee on a deeper level, is getting to know their background. This may sound like a silly question, but I love to ask the question, what is your story starting with kindergarten? And I know that seems crazy, but the reason why that's such an effective question is because we so often really fast forward all of our childhood and just skip right to the college and career part. And it doesn't necessarily serve us, only because there's so much that happens in our childhood that really makes us who we are today. And so asking the question, what is your story starting with kindergarten? You're really asking your mentee to dive deeper with you as to things that they did when they were younger. Who were they friends with? What did they do? What motivated them to do certain things? And that really is a big premise for who they are today and how they got to where they're at today. I'm a big believer in asking that question because it's such a vital component to really getting to understanding your mentee. And by the way, ideally, you can reciprocate. Ideally, your mentee will ask you the exact same question, because I bet you haven't actually told that full story starting with kindergarten to that many people. Typically, you probably started with, well, in college I studied this, and now I'm here, and then I did this, and I started investing in my 401k, and all these other very professional outcomes you've achieved. But really, I want to know the personal stuff, and you want to know the personal stuff of your mentee, because that's really how you can build that deeper relationship in your mentoring relationship with your mentee. It may seem like a lot of detail, but it gives you a lens into their personal goals and drives. Now, after I ask the question, what is your story starting with kindergarten? I like to ask the question, what is your dream career and how do you plan on getting there? This is a great question to ask because this helps you get a barometer as to where they like to go with their life. And perhaps they haven't answered that question. And perhaps they give you a response that you think is not only very achievable, but very realistic. And perhaps you see something even greater for them. I know one of the biggest benefits a mentor has given to me is that they've seen something in me that I didn't see in myself. That's where you can step in and say, you know what, I think that dream career is great and you can absolutely achieve it. But you know what? I think you can aim a little bit higher. I absolutely think you can achieve XYZ additional outcome to the dream career you've laid out. That might not always be the case. But Jennifer, I know you mentioned your mentee brings up the what ifs all the time, and that's typically a sign of potentially sometimes lack of confidence or fears driving someone's decisions. And so by going in and asking them, what is your dream career? And then challenging them on that to see if they can step that up a little bit higher can be a huge confidence boost for them and what they can achieve, and just really having that person in their corner to believe in them. Because so often we've got our parents, we've got our family, we've got our friends that say, I don't know if that's realistic for you, and they push us down. Unfortunately, it's unintentional, and they do it because they think they're trying to be helpful because of the things that were helpful to them in their past. And they're really just, more often than not, they're afraid that you might walk down a rabbit hole that's painful or uncomfortable, or that you might have to have some struggles with, and they don't want to see you struggle. They love you, but out of their love, they push you into a scenario and a situation that isn't serving you. And so as their mentor, you can really pump them up to believe in their goals, believe in that dream career that they've set for themselves, and don't, not to challenge them with what you or someone else may think is realistic. So boost them up, asking them, what is your dream career and how do you plan on getting there? And really helping them set up that plan is so critical. And then breaking it down into a smaller, more bite-sized step, asking them, where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's a great question to ask because it allows them to really conceptualize, especially if they're a student. In 5 years, they're going to be in their career. In 5 years, they might be in their mid-20s. Now, if you've got an alumni mentee, they might be a little bit older, but they're going to be in a very different perspective and a very different spot than they are at this current juncture in time. So what are they going to do to help them get to where they like to be in 5 years? ask them those goals. That's a great way of just getting an idea of where your mentee would like to be, and vice versa. You should answer these questions for your mentee. You should absolutely, when you ask these questions, answer them yourself, because that helps your mentee get a guide for where you'd like to be. It's a mutual relationship. Really, all mentorship is horizontal. And by that, I just mean there's an element of mutuality to them. When you're building a relationship with your student, really dive deeper into how you can impact your mentee and how you can answer questions that you're asking them, because it shows that you're relatable and it shows that you care about these things as well, and potentially provides a roadmap for where they'd like to be in their career. The other thing I like to do to build a deeper relationship with my mentee is to ask them to tell you a story about a time that they really wanted something and they ended up realizing that they didn't really want it that much, but actually wanted something else. Regardless of whether or not they got it, what they learned from it. Really telling a story of a learning lesson where we maybe made a mistake, or maybe we built something up in our minds to be this grandiose thing. In reality, it wasn't that grandiose. It's kind of following along the lines of the sentiment, never meet your heroes. But when I ask that question, when I ask people that question, what really happens is it allows them to be vulnerable with me. It'll allow your mentee to be vulnerable with you if they feel comfortable opening up. And perhaps you may need to start with a story of your own, where you say, hey, I really thought I needed to get my MBA, and I really thought I needed this to be where I am at today. But I realized that I maybe didn't need that. After working in the professional world, after getting promotions, and after getting opportunities with my supervisor and boss, who ended up being my mentor, I ended up getting all the opportunities I thought I needed, or that I thought I could get only with an MBA. That's just one example, but it's a variety of things that you could have told yourself that you needed to have, and then maybe you didn't get it, or maybe you learned something new. And what was that thing that you learned from that? What is a story you could share with your mentee? And by the way, what is a story you like them to share with you? That's something that's a great teaching moment for your own self, and a great way of learning more about your mentee and building a deeper relationship with them. The point is that these questions get your mentee to open up and get out of their facade that everything has to be perfect. That's really the main point, is that there's no such thing as perfect. Perfect is a myth. Perfect is never achievable. I'm a big believer that complete is better than perfect. So by that, all I'm saying is, when it comes to your mentee, how can you help them fall on their face quicker so then they can learn that lesson and move on to the thing that's bigger and better? More often than not, quick failure is better than perfectionism. That's something that I'm a really big believer in. That's something that I really find to be really effective in mentor relationships. And I find that a lot of students hold themselves back from their own fear because they want to be perfect at 22 years old. So the point I'm making is, it helps them open up to you and help you give them that confidence boost that they don't have to be perfect by sharing times that maybe you weren't perfect. That's a big part of vulnerability. So I'll stop there, take a quick moment to pause, see if you all have any questions or comments on this so far. It looks like we don't have any question or comments, but hopefully that's helpful. We're going to jump into this next part, and that is how to help your mentee with accountability. So I've got 5 core questions that I really love to dive into when it comes to helping your mentee with accountability. I'm going to repeat them, and I'm going to share why they're so important. And by the way, I'm a big believer in having you answer these questions as well. The 5 questions are these. 1, when have you persisted and had it pay off for you? That's a great question to ask, because it helps them think about a time that they've had success. So often when it comes to accountability, it comes with excuses. And I know we've all heard them before, but how can we overcome those excuses? Is by identifying difficult times that we've had to go over and overcome things that were difficult, persisted, and we were successful. It gets them in the mind frame of when they have been successful in the past and they didn't have an excuse that held them back, and gets them into that mindset of, you know what, okay, I have accomplished difficult things, and I have done difficult things, and this is how I overcame it. The second question I like to ask is, what specific actions do you need to take to meet your goal? This is essentially allowing them to put the ball in their court, as opposed to telling them like, hey, this is what you need to do. By the way, that's not a great thing to do as a mentor. Don't ever tell somebody that they should do something, but empower them to ask them the question of, what are things that they think they need to do? Because ultimately that is what is most realistic to them. Most people are better at laying out their own roadmap than having someone else lead the roadmap out for them. because in their mind, they know what's realistic and what's not realistic, and they're only going to take the actions that they think are realistic to them. So by asking them the question, what specific actions do you need to take to meet your goal, that helps them create reality and helps them create a roadmap for themselves that they think is realistic. The third question I like to ask is, who can help you be accountable? This is not just you. By the way, as your mentor, you definitely are helping them hold accountable just by asking these questions. But who is somebody else in their life that can help hold them accountable? Is there a really good friend that they know is just on top of their game and always doing really cool things? Or is there a professor that they can go to that can help hold them accountable? And honestly, they may not think of anybody at the top of their head. And really, more often than not, it's because they just have never thought to ask. If you ask the professor, if you ask the friend, hey, would you be willing to help hold me accountable to these types of things? We know that by putting it out into the ether, you are so much more likely to actually accomplish that goal and to be accountable to your goals, because you are now not only associating your own identity with it, but other people are associating your identity with those new goals. Because of that, and you know that other people are holding you accountable to that or think of you in that light, you're going to have that much greater drive to achieve those goals. When you share your goals with other people, you are much more likely to achieve them. So ask them, who can help them be accountable? The fourth question I like to ask is, what systems can you put in place to help you follow through? This is a great question to ask because it eradicates the judgment. It eradicates the, hey, you mentioned you wanted to achieve this and you haven't really done anything on that. If you say that, it kind of has this air of like judgment, like they had to have done that. And it doesn't actually hold themselves accountable to their own goals, and it makes them feel like potentially you're pressuring them. So a question you can ask is, what systems can you put in place to help you follow through? Now there's no judgment. Now it's not on you to help your mentee hold them accountable. They're creating their own systems and processes. Now dive deeper. They might say, I don't know what I can do. And then you can start making some suggestions. Maybe you could say, hey, maybe at the Friday of every week, if you know you haven't done XYZ action or XYZ activity, perhaps try to get it done on that Friday. Think of things that they can do in their own personal mental audits or personal check-ins to see if they are on track to achieve whatever goal that they've set for themselves. And if not, how can they course correct? Something they can essentially self-implement, so then it's helping them course correct, not necessarily them dreading their meeting with you because they know they haven't done anything towards their goal. And the fifth question I like to ask is, what are the costs of not following through on your commitments, and what are the rewards of following through on your commitments? This cost reward structure is a great question to ask because it allows them to put things into perspective. See, more often than not, people are willing to do more to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. So if they're only thinking about the rewards, like, oh, I'll get this promotion, or I'll get this internship, or I'll get this job offer, or I'll get this raise, if they're only thinking about the rewards, they could justify not going through with their goals because they can justify, yeah, I didn't need that. My life wasn't hurting beforehand. I can live without that promotion. I can live without that job title. I can live without that thing that I'm working towards. But if you also cater it and think about it in terms of the costs, that is a lot more motivating. If it's, well, I'm not going to be on the professional track that I thought I would be at when I first set my career goals, or I might let my family and friends down, or I might not be able to provide for my family in the way that I told them I would, and I'm going to let them down because now I can't get them the gifts they want for Christmas or whatever. When you think about the costs, you're much more likely to take action to achieve those goals. You're much more likely to be accountable to those goals because people avoid pain than they do more to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. The story that I most associate with this is, if your financial advisor calls you in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. and wakes you up and says, hey, if you act now, you can get $20,000, you're going to hang up and scream at him. But if your financial advisor says, hey, at 3 a.m, if you don't act now, you're going to lose $20,000, you're going to thank them and do whatever they tell you to do because you do not want to lose that. The point is that people are much more willing to do things to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. So if you can format and formulate your thoughts in terms of your questioning in a way, and formulate their own thoughts in terms of accountability as it pertains to cost and reward analysis, you're much more likely to get them to really put it in perspective and to really justify why this is important to them, not why it's important for you to help hold them accountable. So I hope those 5 questions were helpful. I'll repeat them one more time. 1, when have you persisted and had it pay off for you? 2, what specific actions do you need to take to meet your goal? 3, who can help hold you accountable? 4, what systems can you put in place to help you follow through? And 5, what are the costs of not following through on your commitments and rewards of following through on your commitments? Any thoughts, any questions, anything on those suggestions there as it pertains to accountability? Hey, Jennifer, thanks for saying hey. So the last set of questions I have here are how to help your mentee broaden their perspective. I've got 6 questions that I go to for this. They're really great. They're really beneficial with confidence. They're really beneficial with getting people out of that one-sided thinking. I think as a mentor, you might think to yourself, well, I'm working with my mentee and they're so focused on this one lane and they're not even realizing that there's all these other lanes that they can pursue. And I don't know how to communicate that to them. Maybe they're not necessarily listening. Maybe they're not necessarily receiving what you're saying. One of the best ways to go about getting through to them is asking questions. Questions are way better than solutions for a mentor relationship, that is. So the first question I like to ask is, what will this situation look like to you in 10 years? Your personal professional situation. What will it look like to you in 10 years? This is a great question to ask because it gives them perspective. It allows them to think about where they would like to be in 10 years. It gives them a very broad future destination, maybe something ambitious, admirable that they're working towards. Maybe they've got a big, hairy, audacious goal, but what are they working towards in 10 years? The second question I like to ask is, what are you willing to try that is different? So this is a great question to ask because it allows them to really recognize, okay, perhaps I am not on task to getting to where I like to be in 10 years. Is there something that I can commit to that's different than what I'm doing right now so that I can get myself closer to being where I'd like to be? The third question I like to ask is, who do you respect and how might he or she approach the situation you are facing? This is a great question to ask because it gives them a paradigm, a role model to follow as they pursue this goal. It essentially allows them to realize that they're human too. I'm human too. That their goals, although it seemed aspirational and unachievable, they ended up achieving it. And you know what? If I respect this person and I know this person, shoot, if I've got a goal that I like to be at in 10 years, I can achieve it too. And it allows me to look at how they went about achieving it. And the other big component to that is they can now see how that person achieved it. See, so often mentees and students will think that there's this linear approach to achieving any goal. Like, once I do this, I get to this. And once I do that, I get to that. More often than not, it's circular. More often than not, it's all in different directions. And when they look at that paradigm, that person they respect and how they might approach that situation, and they look at their story and realize, you know what? Their story wasn't linear. It was circular. My story can be circular too. It empowers them to see that outcome for themselves. The fourth question I like to ask is, what is your attitude about this situation? Is it helping you or hurting you? This is a great question to ask because this allows them to assess their own attitude on the situation. As opposed to saying like, hey, I don't know if your attitude's helping you in this circumstance. That might, in their mind, potentially seem judgmental. By asking them, what is your attitude about this situation? Genuinely, inquisitively, and is it helping you or hurting you? They'll answer for themselves. And if they can acknowledge that it's hurting them, then you can start to think about, okay, well, how can you set yourself up with an attitude that is going to serve you in this circumstance and situation? The fifth question I like to ask is, what is one of your greatest strengths? How can it serve you in this situation? By asking what is your greatest strength and how can it serve you, it allows them to think about what their own superpower is and how that can serve them. Because ultimately, everybody's got a superpower. Everybody's got strengths. And how they can leverage that to help them achieve their goal is different and unique for every individual person. The key is your ability to listen to them and hear what their strength is, and then ask them, how can it serve you in this situation? Ultimately, that's an empowering question because it gets them thinking about how they can be successful in their own circumstance and situation. Now, the sixth question I like to ask is, what makes you curious about this issue? The reason why that's a great question to ask is because it gets them thinking deeper as to why they are wanting to be in this place in 10 years in the first place. If they're asking themselves, if you're asking them, what makes you curious about this? And they answer it, they might be able to realize on their own that they're doing it for somebody else and not themselves. See, if the answer to what makes you curious about this is, well, my parents told me I should be doing this, or my friends think that this is a really respectable job, or on the list of top 10 careers for the greatest stability, this is one that really is going to earn me the most money and be very stable. If those are their reasons and they're admitting that to you, they might end up realizing, you know what, I'm not actually genuinely curious about this issue at all. And that can really be a major breakthrough in your mentor relationship with your mentee, because that can allow them to really see and think, what do I really want with my life? What do I really want with my career? And really do things that are impactful. So that's where you can really have a big breakthrough in your mentor relationship. So those 6 questions on how to help a mentee broaden their perspective are: 1, what will the situation look like to you in 10 years? 2, what are you willing to try that is different? 3, who do you respect and how might he or she approach the situation you are facing? 4, what is your attitude about this situation? Is it helping you or hurting you? 5, what is one of your greatest strengths and how can that serve you in this situation? And 6, what makes you curious about this issue? After answering all those questions, follow up with what makes you curious. That can really help get to the root of why they are doing their work. That why is so powerful. If their why is wishy-washy, then maybe you can work on helping them identify a more impactful, more passionate why for themselves. So that is it. Those are our tips and suggestions for our second mentor workshop of the fall 2020 semester. I'm so grateful for you all being here tonight on this live session. If you have any questions, please post them in the comment section. Questions, concerns, statements, comments, anything. I'd love to hear from you. Just having y'all here is so great because it allows us to build community, allows us to learn about how the mentor relationships are going, and it's allowing me to learn what is most impactful from these live workshops anyways, and it just allows me to interact with you all during this. I know outside of just our higher ed mentor programs, we also provide these types of mentor programs in companies, and it's really cool to see how these mentor tips and tricks not only impact higher ed mentor relationships, but corporate mentor relationships, building relationships with other team members on your team or other executives, so then we can learn and build objectivity and just become more engaged at work, and ultimately build a workplace that we're excited about and that we can wake up excited for work and be happy about what we're doing, have our expectations meet reality. That's what we're all about at Ambition in Motion. And by the way, if any of you are working in circumstances where you think, hey, I would love to have a mentor in my company, reach out. We'd love to chat with you about that. That's a big part of what we do and how we help teams and people and really mold the future of work. So Jennifer, you asked the question, can someone write the first one in here? Oh, in terms of reiterating the questions, yeah, I reiterated them earlier. Megan will be sure to write those questions down in the comment section. Will I be posting these questions, Mark? Yes, we will post them. You know what? I'll just post them in the chat right now. Just because I can, I've got them right in front of me. Copy and paste. I am over on my character limit. Hold on a second. So I will copy and paste them in chunks because YouTube chat will only let me post so many questions. Actually, you know what? I might be able to post in the comment section down below here. Okay, there they are. Yep, I just commented. They are on the comments. It's the very first comment is just from Ambition in Motion. How can you help your mentee with accountability? And you just click read more. It's got all the questions listed there. Brian, good stuff. The 2 best bosses mentors I've had have directly challenged me to open my professional blinders beyond the limited views I would respond with. That's awesome. I love hearing those stories, Brian. I mean, that's exactly it. That's, as a mentor, you see something in your mentee that they may not see in themselves. It's so powerful. These mentor relationships, seriously, what you all are doing is extremely impactful and extremely beneficial. And I know you may think to yourself, well, I don't know if I'm being impactful. I don't know if my work is being, if I don't know if it's falling on deaf ears, or I don't know if it's really impacting my mentee in the way that I was hoping it will, or hoping it does. And more often than not, in fact, we know the data shows that your work as their mentor has a massive impact on them. And unfortunately, sometimes your mentee may not actually show it. They might not necessarily say thank you, but we know that they're grateful. We know that it has a massive impact. We know the studies show that people who have mentors are nearly 3 times more likely to thrive in their life and in their career than people who do not. So your work as a mentor is extremely appreciated. It's not taken lightly. You are doing an incredible work, and especially in this difficult time of COVID, when internships are unknown and job offers and situations are uncertain, you're really helping them work through this really difficult time. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for all the work that you do. If you got any other questions, please email support@ambition-in-motion.com. That's pretty much all the components for this mentor workshop this evening. Thank you all for being here live. And thank you for watching the recording. If you're watching the recording, have a wonderful rest of your evening. I'm excited to learn how your next mentor conversation goes. See you in November. See you, everybody.